This may sound crazy, but I'm really hopeful that with the new generation, games actually go up in price. What is going on, guys and girls? It's GhostRobo, and I know that's probably the most controversial way I could open up this video on pricing and games by saying that, yes, I do in fact hope that games raise their initial MSRP to $70 for the Xbox 720 and the PlayStation 4. And Ghost, what are you saying? How could that be? Now, guys and girls, please just bear with me and hear out my reasoning before you go bonkers in the comments, which is that video games are, in fact, cheaper than they've almost ever been. Okay, we've maintained the $60 price point for over 7 years now, and that is quite crazy because inflation's happening every single second of every single day. You know, there's a funny stat that if you drop a penny off of the Empire State Building, it's worth less by the time it hits the ground than it was when you actually dropped it. It's not even worth a penny anymore, and that is the case with the economy in general. And yes, the economy's been down, and so people do not have and do not want to spend that much money on games. I understand that. Or maybe you want to, but you just can't, and I get that. And that makes great sense and makes perfect sense. But I'm thinking of this from a game industry, business of games standpoint, and as someone who wants games to grow, to continue to be the best they can possibly be. I'm not even thinking for myself. Of course, guys, of course I would rather games be cheap. If games could all be $5, great. I could get way more of them with much less stress, and it would not be tiresome. You know, I don't get games for free like many people think. You know, most people think I get all my games from reviewers. No. I go to the store, just like you guys, I purchase them, I spend the full price, you know, because I have to get games when they first come out to cover them. I don't even get to get them on deals, so I'm spending the most on games, really, and so, of course, a cheaper price point would be awesome. But the fact of the matter is that for games to improve, for games to continue being awesome and become more awesome, that price point really needs to go up. I remember being very young, and I went to Funkoland. This is pre-GameStop, pre-EB Games. This is way back in the day when we had black and white TV. Funkoland was the place where you got your games. It is the origins of GameStop. And I bought Pokemon Stadium for $70. Now, this was over 12 years ago, and Pokemon Stadium, the N64 game, was $70. And yeah, that was a crap ton of money back then. But it just goes to show you that $60 for a game today in 2013, for what you're getting, for how many millions of dollars go into this game, it's really a good value. And I want to kind of explain why I think it is, which is that you're getting a lot of entertainment. And some people say, well, if it's a bad game, it shouldn't cost $60. But my argument to that is, with so many previews, with so many videos, with so many YouTubers, with so many quick looks, with so many commercials, basically, if you buy a game that you don't like, a lot of that is probably got to fall on you. You know, if you go in and you're hoping Call of Duty, you know, 84 is the greatest thing ever and it has RPG elements and it really has a great story, well, you've probably read a preview or watched a video and you're probably knowing that that is not going to be the case. Or if you go and buy Madden and hope it's drastically different and then are pissed off that you spent your money, you knew about it. So to quell those arguments about, oh, games, you know, are crappy and they shouldn't cost a whole, I don't believe that. Basically, you get what you pay for, and if you do a little research, you can make sure that your dollars are being spent to their best value. You know, of course you can wait for sales, of course there's Steam, but even at the $60 price point, if you do your research, if you find the games you like, you should be pretty happy. Games can run anywhere from 6 to 100 hours, and yes, you know, you get your technically most money out of a title like Skyrim, but even a 6 to 8 hour experience, look at this, most movie tickets cost $10 nowadays. When I was out in LA for Thanksgiving with my family, it was $18 a seat for the 3D version of Life of Pi. So $18 a seat. For 4 of us, and there were 6 of us actually, but let's just keep things at 4 because 4 is a good number for multiplayer in games. 4 people, that would be $72 just to see that 2-hour movie. Now I can go and buy a game, NBA 2K13, pay $60 for it, and I can play that with my brothers, and we can all play the game for that one $60 price point as many times as we want. And that really is what you have to look at. Even if you don't want to think that, oh, it should be, it's really a good price. I don't have much more to say than that. $60, you're getting a lot. And if it's a bad game, well, that onus kind of falls on you. And I don't mean that in a mean way or a bad way. And sure, there's some games that are disappointing. I'm disappointed in a lot of games. You know, I pick up a title like Darksiders 2 last year, thought it was going to be fantastic. And I'm like, I wish I would have bought that at $40. So everybody experiences that. But for the most part, you know what you're getting into, you know what you're buying. So when you spend that $60, you are getting a pretty good value. Unless you're going out and buying, you know, Baby's Crazy Wheels, then this conversation isn't for you in the first place. But I hope that they go up in price because it will allow for studios to save themselves a lot of disaster, a lot of trouble, a lot of hassle, a lot of cutting corners. You know, Systems is not where companies make their money. They don't make their money on the actual PlayStation 4, on the actual Xbox 720. They make their money on the accessories and the software. And if we bump the software to $70, this works on a bunch of different levels, but it will prevent, at least in some percentage of a way, studio closures, which is exactly what we don't want to see. Because the more studios that close, the more homogenized that studios get, the more big mega studios there are working on games, the more games get similar, the more we get yearly sequels, the more we get these just vomited out projects that feel very generic and feel very samey and are just cash cows. And everybody loves a cash cow because you can't forget, I don't care if you have $0, if you're a billionaire, if you love games, you hate games, it is the fact of the matter that video games are a business, and the people wearing the suits and ties at the top of these companies are out to make money. Whether you can afford it, whether you can't afford it, whether the game is good, whether the game is bad, they want to make the most money. I guarantee majority, yes, there probably are some outliers, but majority of the people in charge of these publishers, the publishers, not the developers, the publishers, are looking to get the most bang for their buck rather than the most fun out of their mechanic. And so when it comes down to money, if each title was a higher price point, there would be, I posit, more reason for developers to put more oomph into the mechanics, take a few more risks, knowing that on the back end they are going to get their money back, knowing that the publisher is going to be okay getting more money. The other side of this coin is that I frankly think the increase from 60 to 70 is not so large. Yes, games are hard, but if you can only afford one game a year, you're still going to only be able to afford one game a year. It's not like I'm saying increase them from 60 to 100. It's not like I'm saying take them from 60 to 300. I'm saying 60 to 70, give them an extra $10 per game. And you can say, oh, people are greedy, this is ridiculous, they get enough money, they should be happy. That's not how the world works, really. You know, people are never going to be like that. That train of thought is never going to kick in and really change things. People aren't going to just smile and give you things for free. I mean, there's a lot of places you get good sales. The Humble Bundle, a great thing. The Indie Royale bundles, Steam, a lot of cool websites where you can get PC games, Mac games, downloadable games, iPhone games, even Xbox 360 games if you time it right for a very cheap price. You know, $30, $40 is not unrealistic to think for getting a new release, current gen's game after a couple of weeks. But that price point, I feel like it needs to happen because we cannot continue to go on 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016 with this $60 price point because people are afraid to increase it. You know, there's this thought that they will lose a lot of support. I don't know if the developers or publishers are thinking this, but on Twitter, when I've talked about this before, there's a lot of people say, man, they won't sell half as many copies, it will screw them. I don't think that's true. Again, if you can afford 60, I think you can afford 70. And if you're budgeted to afford 3 games a year, you buy your Madden, you buy your Call of Duty, and you buy one cool new IP, that $30 isn't going to really hurt you so much. And from a standpoint that is a lot of kids who are using allowance money or their parents' money or whatever to buy games, I understand that becomes a little more complicated and tricky. But if you think of the industry as a whole, an extra $30 per person per year for games is not going to make them quit gaming. Be honest. Be honest with yourselves. If you are a major Halo fan and Halo 5 released at $70, would you not buy it because it wasn't $60? Sure, there'll be a couple people that get grumpy and stubborn and don't buy it. But honestly, if they stealthily raised the current gen games to $65 a couple years ago, would you have stopped buying games? No, I don't believe that's true. I don't believe that an increase as low as $10, which is not even a 20% increase, will affect things much at all. I don't think it'll affect sales in the slightest. I think sales are going to have a huge boom from the new consoles. The PS4, the 720 are going to really light another fire under the gaming industry. It always happens. New consoles breed new life, bring in new gamers, and build lots of cash stacks. So sales are going to be flying, and you could say, well, then they don't need to raise game prices. But I think we need to start training people that $70 is an acceptable price point. I would even be for $80, but I know that's a little crazy, and I don't want to get too many pies thrown at my face. So I'm going to stick with 70. Gosh. Whew. 60 now, 70 next gen. That's what we're going to go for. And I mean, that's what I'm going to go for. And I would hope that maybe through my talk, you can see where I'm coming from and see how it kind of makes sense and really doesn't affect the big picture that much for you, but really could make a big difference for gaming. If you want good games to stick around, there is a reason why we are getting so many sequels and so many churned out franchises that devolve into the same old. And a lot of it has to do with money. And whether you like it or not, whether you think it's fair or not, whether you think it's greedy or not, well, they don't care. They're never going to come to your house and say, oh, John or Sam or Chelsea or Rachel or Tim, we're sorry that you're being stubborn about games. Here's a free copy. That's not going to happen. So you like it or don't, but the whole industry is about money. And sad but true, the people in charge are dictating what games get made. You know, you can be indie studios, and I love indie studios. I love that they can do this sort of garage gaming thing where they build this game out of nothing, and it's a small team and little money, and it turns out to be awesome. That's great. But for the games that most people grew up to love and continue to love, which are the big experiences, the cool characters, the epic graphics, those require a buttload of cashola. And there are a lot of decisions at a corporate level being made that are solely revolving around the dollar sign. Sad but true. Sure, I don't like it just as much as you don't, but that's the way the world works, and I think that this increase in price would save us. It would actually give us a better amount of what we want, a better amount of sincerity, a better amount of genuine game making, you know, of hey, I got this cool idea, and we can actually put this into practice because we're making a little bit more money, and if they have a surplus, great! It'll go away soon enough. They're going to use it on something, and hopefully it turns out to be something cool. You know, there's no guarantee that a more expensive game is going to be a better game. But there's more likelihood that developers could take risks at a higher price point. At a current price point, there's no higher chance. So I would rather give an extra $10 for the hope that there are less studio closures, there is more diversity, there are more awesome games, and this industry continues to grow, continues to flourish, and has enough money to eventually expand itself out of this counterculture image that it has so long sat in that causes a lot of headaches, a lot of trouble, and a lot of upset. That is a topic for another day, but I hope this video made sense to you. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Again, I'm just giving you my 2 cents, and I hope it makes some sort of sense to you. Till next time, guys and girls, thanks so much for watching. Hit that like button if you enjoyed. Till next time, everybody. $70 games for $720 in PS4. Campaign of GhostRobo. Frankly, if they do or they don't, it won't really make me that mad or that sad. I just think it's a good frame of thought and a good idea in order to boost up the thing that I love so very much, which is games. And I'm super excited for the next gen, and I want there to be the coolest experiences we can possibly have. So that's going to do it. Thanks again for watching, guys and girls. Hope you enjoyed. Until next time, we'll see you all later.